From breaking the point record in the solo cash cup to setting the kill record in the next, Vico has proven himself to be one of the best fighters in Europe. I watched over 200 fights from the record breaking cash cups and found 12 reasons why it's so hard to fight Vico. Do you take damage when piece controlling? In this fight, the opponent ramps over Vico and starts pressuring his tops, however he doesn't have a wall in front of him. Most players would edit up and place the wall to counter piece, but may take damage since the opponent is holding their gun out. But Vico edits the back tile of his floor to claim the wall without exposing himself, then makes a window edit to claim all the builds except the right wall. As the opponent goes to edit out the box, Vico quickly places a cone wall to his right, then edits a window to safely claim the back walls and uses his movement to stay completely hidden before getting a big shot on the opponent. They edit up their cone to try and escape, but instead of trying to spray it out, Vico knows he owns the floor and cone above him, so he immediately jumps up and makes a double edit to pick up the kill. While Vico's mechanics stand out in fights, what separates him from everyone else is his ability to not get hit when peeking. Even in this fight where the player isn't very skilled, he takes the wall and sees the opponent moving to the right, so he edits the center window while moving to the left to stay completely hidden and gets a 96 tag. From here, he resets his wall to block the opponent's shot, then makes a 4 tile edit while moving behind his wall to completely expose the player while staying hidden to finish the fight. Window peeks are extremely strong when done correctly, but people often take them without understanding the angle. Vico is getting pushed off spawn and picks up 42 damage pre-firing the opponent's double swing. Knowing the player will keep running at him, Vico edits his center wall while backing up into the left to create a better angle. If he stood against this wall, he would have had to expose himself in order to get a shot off. This allowed him to get a 97 pump while his opponent max pumped the wall, then died shortly after. Vico is very deliberate with his edits and peaks, which allows him to finish fights quicker since he doesn't need to waste any extra time healing. But when he does need to get heals off, this is what he does. In this clip, he gets his shield cracked and immediately jumps up and elevates 3 layers of metal with an extra layer of high walls to prevent getting ramped over. Building vertically forces the opponent to build up, buying him enough time to get his heals off, then come back and win the fight. High walls are extremely useful on the offensive side as well. Vico cracks the opponent's shield and they start to build up. He's 2 layers below but quickly jumps up, placing a high wall, allowing him to edit and cone the opponent. He places the back and left wall to prevent him from escaping before finishing the fight with a side jump to the right. Placing these 2 walls were crucial, as you can see the opponent tries to escape from that direction. Making these little details habit is what separates great fighters from everyone else. In this situation, most players would have likely pieced the player, but how many players are doing this after the fact? He ramps towards his opponent and gets an 86 tag before getting walled off. He quickly edits out to the side and does a 180 while placing a high wall, edits through, and drags his cone to the right to prevent his opponent from going up. He instantly places a wall to avoid getting blocked, then claims the back 2 walls while moving to the right using the stairs cover, making himself impossible to hit. After the opponent shoots, he's safe to come back up and 1-pump them. Good movement is an extremely underrated skill when it comes to making peaks, and Vico has mastered it. Another skill he's mastered is retakes, which becomes useful when players sit above you without making any play. In this clip, he side jumps with his gun down in case they peek, then catches himself and ramps towards them. From here, he jumps to the side, placing high walls, and instead of just catching himself on the floor, he builds a ramp which allows him to elevate a layer with his next jump. Doing this saves the time it would have took him to jump up after catching himself with the floor, and gives him just enough time to catch the opponent on the wall before safely full boxing them and finishing the fight. But what does he do when he doesn't have mats? In this fight, Vico only has 17 builds when his opponent ramps over him. He hears him start to heal, so instead of trying to build up, he notices his builds are only connected to his box. So he makes a top row edit, edits the front 2 tiles of his floor and the back 2 tiles of his cone, disconnecting the opponent's builds. He gets a 90 tag as they're falling and picks up the kill shortly after. A simple but effective move that led to over 20 of Vico's kills was claiming missing builds after breaking a wall. After a build breaks, there's a 150 millisecond delay before you can place it again, which allows you to build missing pieces in an opponent's box even if they're holding the build. The most common piece to be missing from the box is the middle wall, and Vico took advantage of every player without one. I thought this was common sense, but seeing how many players failed to do so, let this be a public service announcement. If you're playing from multiple boxes, build your center wall. When keying from multiple boxes, Vico pressures from the top using his wall as a right hand, then quickly moves behind it to avoid getting shot. He continues to pressure this angle with his weapons until his opponent backs up. When moving closer, he builds these 2 walls to prevent getting edited on from the cone. Then he tries to bait his opponent into making an edit while staying close to this wall, because from this angle he can hit them but he can't get hit back. The opponent makes some more boxes, and instead of claiming the cone, Vico claims the floor, making them relocate again. If you didn't know, you could pickaxe floors through cones if you hit the right spot between the cone and wall. Vico continues to pressure the opponent from a safe distance with his AR until he reboxed on his double edge, which he quickly realized and was able to capitalize on. Being aware of what pieces belong to you can make for really easy kills, especially when the opponent is unaware. After turning on his cheats, Vico gets pushed and needs to box up. He heard the player drop and edits down and gets an 85 tag before flipping the ramp and claiming all the walls around him. From here, similar to the first clip, Vico chooses not to make an edit on the wall and jumps up to the floor and cone that he already built, picking up a free kill. Another important thing to be aware of at all times is your opponent's position, and to do that, you need to get good at using the information you're given, which comes from what you can see in here. When they start to rebox, he sees the last box they built, so he can assume that's where they stopped and finds them in the cone. They edit down and seem to run in a straight line, so Vico can guess the direction they're going and hears them at the cone. The replay freezes for a second, but we can see the last box they built and assume they're in there. Vico breaks the wood wall and sees the brick walls were healthy, meaning he couldn't have edited out the box, meaning the only place he could be is under the stair. It could be a reach, but you could also guess that he heard the wood wall edit or the opponent take out the fizz bottle, giving up his location. His opponent made a lot of mistakes playing defensively, and if you don't want to make those same mistakes, click the video on the left for a defensive box fighting guide, or click the video on the right to see how I improved my box fighting in 7 days.